Hey guys, I'm excited to be back with the third edition or November edition of our Mixed Media Menagerie Challenge with Laura, Aaron, and myself. After opening the amazing envelope of ephemera that Laura left on my door, I grabbed some supplies to go with our black and white and the other stipulations that were on the slide earlier for this challenge. And I found myself really paralyzed. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what to put on my pages, how to even begin to create. So the first thing I did was gesso this 2-page spread in our journal. The Dina Wakley Media Blue Edition journal is what all three of us are using. And then I used my stabilo all pencil to kind of muddy up the page, to break the page, to hopefully get my creative juices flowing a bit. So I just scribbled on it with my little stabilo puddle. And then instead of waiting for it to dry, I grabbed a paper towel to dry the pages and then grabbed the brayer, which is one thing we had to use, and some gesso. This way I thought, I'd get the brayer element out of the way just in case I couldn't use it another way. And also just another layer of breaking these pages to try to wake my brain up. Next, I began to layer some of the ephemera that Laura gave us. This is just a page from a book, and I put it down on my journal with matte medium. I like to use a good amount on the front and the back to make sure that this is secure to the page. There's nothing worse than having bubbles and not getting it stuck down on the page when you're in the middle of adding more mixed media layer goodness. And so I added that page on with the matte medium, and then I took my gesso again to kind of soften the edges and allow it to blend into the background a little bit more. Grabbed a second page and repeated the process. So our color challenge this month was black and white plus one color, and I decided to use blue as my color. I used two forms of blue. I used this Payne's Gray first, and then I use another blue later that you'll see. So I grabbed the Payne's Gray, and in another attempt to break the pages, add some color, and get my brain moving, I just added this column of Payne's Gray on the left. I didn't know where it was going. In my mind, it kind of knew what I wanted my destination to be in this journey, but I didn't really know how I was going to get there. And so you'll see along the way that I do a few little things that I don't like and I wipe them away, but those lead to other discoveries and other layers and ways to use the mediums or ephemera that I wasn't planning. So here's one of those. I started making those little X's and didn't like it, wiped them away, and it added a little bit of blue, and I was like, ooh, I like that little shading of blue, and so I continued to do that. Added a little light shading of that Payne's Gray in my pages. I'm just using a baby wipe here to kind of soften that Payne's Gray and wipe it away so it's not so bright, adding a hint of that Payne's Gray on my 2 pages. One of the next ingredients we had to use was this micaceous iron oxide paint from Golden or charcoal or both, and so I grabbed the micaceous iron oxide again, wanting to get it on the pages so I didn't forget about it, but I ended up using it several times coming up in the video. So this kind of, again, breaking those pages, I grabbed the brayer and brayered it on, and my brayer had some texture left on it from the gesso, and it made these really cool lines. So I was really enjoying that. If you haven't used micaceous iron oxide before, it's kind of a gray color that adds some texture and sparkle to the pages. It's really gritty, kind of like sandpaper. You can draw on it with pencil and other things, and also just use it in your painting. So for our winter theme, for me, it added a little bit of that snowy sparkle to my pages in a really subtle way. Next, I'm layering on this pattern paper that Laura included. I really liked the little scene from the paper that she had in my box, and so I wanted to use that whole thing and make sure it was pretty flat. So I primed the page first with matte medium, made sure I had a really good amount on, and stuck that pattern paper down, and then also put the matte medium on top of it. I wanted to kind of avoid wrinkles. I wanted it to maybe kind of look like a billboard or an advertisement on my page. I loved the graphics on it, and I actually had a hard time covering it up. But I do eventually, you'll see that coming up. So I'm just softening the page here with that matte medium, making sure that my pattern paper is stuck down really well. I love also how pattern paper is transparent, and so behind it you already see my layers of that first stabilo and the blue and the micaceous iron oxide. Then I added a couple spots of this, I think it's grocery bag paper that she included, and I forgot to push my record hard enough so it didn't record, but I just put some of those on the page. And here I am grabbing that next blue. It's the light phthalo blue heavy body, and I'm just going to create some circles with it, but I didn't want the blue so bright, and so I added a little bit of my stabilo puddle with it to kind of tone it down a little bit. I'm just trying to mix that up really well and get the blue tone that I want, and I'm going to add some blue spots here on the right side of my page. While the spots were drying, I decided I need one more little spot of that brown paper, so I grabbed a little bit, crinkled it up, grabbed my matte medium, and tried to find the perfect spot for it. You'll kind of see here how my brain works, my visual nature, trying to figure out exactly the best spot for it on my page. Once the spots are dry, I grab my stabilo all pencils in graphite and black to just trace really loosely around them, so that I like to do this, I guess, so that they look a little bit more purposeful on the page, to kind of anchor them so they don't look like they're just sitting on the pages. I think I like to use the stabilo pencil in lots of ways like this, from shadowing to drawing around. So next I'm going to begin the process of decorating my tip ends. We had to include a tip end on the page, and I decided that I was going to use some of these Dina Wakley Media white tags for my tip ends, and because I'm planning on adding a lot of layers to them, I first wanted to gesso them. If you don't gesso them, the pages are like cardboard kind of, or tag board or cardstock, and they're going to really soak that in. So I quick gessoed them with some clear gesso to preserve that white color. I could have used white gesso, but decided the clear was best. Okay, so I knew I wanted to put a tree on my page, and I started the process with a charcoal pencil and absolutely hated, for lack of better words, how it was going. And so I kept this on here because it was important for me to show my mistake, but also that it led to something else, and that this wiping away of the charcoal started to allow me to push back that pattern paper. And so the charcoal left a little bit of residue. So if you want this charcoal residue on your page, I suggest making a tree you don't like, wiping it off, and then it leaves a little bit of that charcoal behind. So you'll also see here that I added a third tag in. I quick gessoed a third tag and decided that I was going to use another one on my pages. And I'm just starting again another process of adding a layer to these tags. Throughout working on my pages as they dry, I'm also going to flip back and forth and work on those tags. And so I did the same thing to them that I did originally on the journal pages, used my little stabilo puddle and my brayer with some white gesso. So the really cool thing is that the white gesso is a different color than the white tag, and so that's one reason that I used the clear gesso on it, so that that white gesso would stand out as another layer. And since I've given myself permission to start pushing that pattern paper back, I brayer some gesso on it as well. This is actually what these pages really needed, as you'll see coming up for the tree that I actually do put on in a little bit. So I layered it with some gesso with my brayer, and then used my finger to soften that gesso up just a little bit. And now here's lesson number 2, 3, 4, 100 of putting things down and not liking what you do. So Laura had included these cute little, I think they're reinforcements for page holes, and I kind of was trying to figure out where to put them, and I felt like I was forcing them to be on the page. They just did not look right. And so in a minute you'll see that I peel them up and put them in another spot. After I removed those little circles, I added some of this holy, I think it's for house building. I can't think of where you use it. My brain is drawing a blank here, but for on walls, it's compound tape or joint compound tape or something. You can get it at Lowe's or Home Depot in the US and probably some other hardware stores overseas. I'm not 100% sure. But Laura had included this, and it really went well with the circle theme that's kind of happening on these pages. And so I stuck it a couple places on the page. Anytime you stick something to the page that's like a sticker background, it's important that you also add matte medium to it to reinforce it so that it doesn't fall off the page. You never really know how good of a cling or stick that those stickers have, and so those little whole circles on the bottom, and then any other things that I stick to this, I also always reinforce with either some matte medium or some gel medium. And so one other thing I also like to do is make sure that objects don't look like they're just sitting on top of the pages, and so to push them back, I like to use my little stabilo puddle here and just add some shadowing on that tape and those circles to blend them more into the pages. And now I'm just adding some little touches of gesso on top of those newly stuck down pieces of ephemera in other areas, just to add another fun layer to make everything feel like it kind of comes together and it's cohesive and nothing is standing out more than the other. I also had to quick remove those protection sheets behind my pages. They were competing with my background and I just couldn't see what I was doing. So you'll see also that I put those in and out several times throughout the process. Alright, here's attempt number 2 at the tree. I grabbed this Bombay India ink and a chopstick. We were supposed to use a skewer, and I thought I had a skewer in my studio, and then I thought I had some in my kitchen, but I didn't. But I had a chopstick, and so I'm perhaps cheating here a bit. I hope not, but I'm using a chopstick instead of a skewer to draw my tree on my pages. And this is a much better approach to my tree. I wanted a silhouette of a tree. I had thought about sketching it first, but didn't want to do that. I really just kind of decided I needed to be brave and just put it on there permanently and draw a tree. The India ink is pretty forgiving in that if you don't get your branch quite right, you can use your little stick and make the branch look a little bit better. Trees can kind of be scary maybe or overwhelming to draw, but if you keep the proportions of a tree in mind, as the sticks or branches are closer to the trunk, they're thicker, and so make sure a branch goes from thick to thin to make sure your tree looks realistic. And so as I'm looking at my tree, I look at my branches and see that some aren't doing that, and so I'll add a little bit of thickness with that ink in spots to make the tree look a little bit more realistic. And then I also was able to make a little bit of sketchy branches for the little twigs that, you know, are little ones that come off the main ones with that bamboo stick, and it was perfect to make that tree with. And then I also grabbed some of that ink and just splattered it on my pages. Next I grabbed some charcoal for some more shadowing. I just mainly put it on the edges of my pages and also on some of the texture to just add another layer of depth. And when I was done with this charcoal, I did spray it with a little bit of fixative. I used Spectrafix. I didn't put that on the camera, but I did make sure that the charcoal wouldn't escape my pages by fixing it a little bit. If you haven't noticed, my vision of winter on these pages is kind of what I think about when I think of winter. The blue color of winter is so pretty to me, and I don't know if it's the way the colors interact with the snow, but I think winter has such a beautiful blue color, and so that was the color I wanted to choose. And then I love the silhouettes of trees in the winter, so I wanted to also put a silhouette of a tree on my pages. And then my tip-ins here, I'm adding some of that India ink. I'm splattering it on and using the bamboo chopstick here. It's really adding to it by adding just random marks. I'm wanting to layer these tags up with just some random mark goodness. Then I thought that I wanted to add some of that Payne's Gray with my brayer, but did not like it. It looked funny, so I actually wiped it away, and that added to that little blue shadow on there that happened before on my pages. And then I also took some of that iron oxide with my finger, put it on the pages, and also on my tags for some more layers. And then it was time to add some snow to my pages. So I grabbed the Dina Wakley Media gloss spray and just flicked it on my pages to add little bits of snow here and there. It does take this some time to dry. So while it was drying, I grabbed my tags and started to work on them again. Laura had included 2 really neat black and white photos, but they just weren't sitting right with me for my pages, and I couldn't figure out why. I tried really hard to use them over and over again on my pages and on my tags, and I realized it's because the people were in summer in the pictures and it didn't quite match my pages. So I looked through my stash of photos because I had remembered that I had some snow pictures, and I found this little stack of really neat pictures of vehicles and houses and trees in the snow, and layered them with this really neat page of, it's like a bill or something, or a store receipt that Laura had included. And Laura, I love this. Where did you get it? I need more. It's just like that pattern paper that you can see through it. So it gave that same effect on my pages, and it's so much fun. So Laura, what's your secret to finding some more of this? If you're listening, I hope you are. Anyway, side note. So these photos also didn't really fit on my tags. And so I'm going to end up cutting them to layer them in all sorts of ways on these tags. And also included some of this really cool transparent ticket paper or bill paper or whatever the official name is on my journal page above. And so here I am doing that process of just cutting out these photos and layering them on the tags. So I chose to use Dina Wakley's heavy gel to stick my photos to the tags for 2 reasons. First, because they are really heavy and matte medium was not going to hold them down. And second, I like to use her gel when I'm going to use it on something that I don't also want to put the medium on the front. And so I wanted these photos to kind of curl and stick up and not be 100% flat to those tags. So using a heavy glue behind this heavy gel mat, it allows the photos to stick. I don't need to put it on top to keep them secure, and they have that kind of cool old wrinkly effect on my tags. Next, it's time to push those photos back so they don't stand out and look like they're just stuck on. So I use that stabilo puddle again to add some shadows and some flicks of paint to them. and this allowed them to give them some depth and push them back. I'm also going to grab some more of that Holy joint compound tape and put that on those photos as well for another layer, and then I'll add some stabilo to those also in the little holes to push it back as well. I didn't really want to overdo the color. I wanted to just put it where needed, and I decided that the left side just needed 3 of those those little blue dots, and so I added those dots, and I'll also trace around with the stabilo as well. And just like on the journal pages, I'm adding some random gesso on my tags. So again, I didn't want to add too much color to my pages, but funny story, the next page behind this journal page is one of the denim pages, and it kept peeking out behind my page, and I was like, oh, that blue looks so nice. I did such a good job on that blue, and I'm like, oh wait, it's not blue paint, it's the denim page. So I decided that I obviously needed to put blue paint on this right side, so I grabbed that Payne's Gray and just lightly placed the Payne's Gray to the right, and then just a little bit on the bottom, because I was still seeing that denim page peek through there, and I was like, man, it needs blue too. So man, adding this little bit of Payne's Gray on the bottom and the left really helped to what's the right word? I don't know. Oh well, you know what I mean. Next, I grabbed these Tim Holtz stickers that have clippings from different books on them, and they have such random phrases, and I created just a little story on my tags, and if you read it, it says, on the left, across the light snow, and then the tags say, the winter's day passed slowly, of nature's magic art, a beautiful bright winter day, looking out the window, as we continued our journey from sunrise till the shadows grew. And once they flip, I also add a picture of the older couple that Laura included, because I wanted to include that picture so bad and I didn't know the right place, but it was perfect once all the tags flip. You'll see me add it in a little bit. When I add them, it says, will you promise never to leave me when we are old and gray? And so now I am adding those tags to my pages as tip-ins using some of the washi tape that Laura included. I'm sticking it on the front and the back of each one so that they flip. And coming up, you'll see also that I'm going to add some of that gel medium to secure that washi tape even more to my pages. Now I'm adding the fabric elements that Laura included. She included 2 pieces of fabric and a piece of lace. I'm going to use the polka dot fabric as a little flipper holder, a little decoration. I thought that this would be the pull to pull that tag, and then I'm going to add the lace coming up as the little tabs to pull those next layers of tags as the little handles on them. So I used a small piece of one of the fabrics behind this photo for a little texture. I just used the stapler to attach it and then used the gel medium to attach the entire little collage to my journal page. And then I might have gone a little carried away. I grabbed the fabrics and put little tabs on top of my journal pages. I like when I see a journal closed and it has little bits and pieces sticking out, so I included those on the top. Then I included some number stickers. We also had to include stickers, even though I had already used those word stickers. I wanted to use number ones too. and numbered my tags 1, 2, 3 as kind of an invitation to flip them. And here's the picture of the older couple that Laura had included that I mentioned before. I decided that when these flipped open, you needed to see something, and so I put this picture in there with that little saying. And then Laura had also included this bag that I hadn't used yet, so I took it as an opportunity to cut a little tab out of it to decorate that picture with. That tab and all of the other ones, I just used the Tim Holtz tiny attacher to stick them to the tags, to the top of the pages, and to that photo. And now just a couple finishing touches. I needed to add some of that white Dina Wakley spray for snow on the spots that were new since I had put the snow on originally. And then I decided I needed to add a little bit more of that iron oxide to add a little bit more sparkle to my pages. And so I put it on the tree to look like the glistening snow on the tree, kind of on the bottom, in that blue that I had added to kind of anchor it to the page. That was the word I was looking for earlier, anchoring it. And also just random places on the page to add some final touches, and that's it. I hope you really enjoyed our November challenge. Again, like always, we would love for you to play along with us. If you want to do a winter page here with black and white plus one color, some random ephemera, use Laura, Erin, or my pages as inspiration, or choose all three of ours and use all three of ours as an inspiration for your pages. We love to inspire you. We're enjoying getting together virtually this way and creating journal pages with our mixed media menagerie. Again, if you go back to the beginning of my video, you'll see our little slide with the requirements, and we hope you join us. Hashtag it mixed media menagerie on Instagram. I hope you all have a wonderful winter season. Enjoy the snow. If you have snow, I hope we get some, maybe just a little here in South Texas this year. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much for your support of Erin, myself, and Laura in our little mixed media menagerie adventure.